Good morning and welcome to a special live edition of To The Point. Most of our 650 shows that we've brought you look at important races or issues on the political landscape, but we have never had one as important as this. For the first time in my more than 20 years covering politics in Michigan, the state seems to be legitimately in play in terms of the run for the White House. It all started to be apparent more than a week ago. We started hearing that Donald Trump was coming back to Michigan, a state that our polling at the time showed him trailing by 7 points. Political logic says you don't need to show up, particularly when you have so many other states rated as toss-up. But there he was on Monday with a big rally in Grand Rapids. Then it started. 3 visits by Mike Pence in 3 days. Hillary Clinton back in Detroit just days before the election. And now new polling shows Michigan closer than ever. Real Clear Politics average says it's Clinton by 4. And because of that, no doubt internal polling as well, the campaigns are going all out in our state starting today. Now, this is a very busy day. As you take a look at the numbers from the Real Clear Politics average, that shows here in Clinton, Hillary Clinton up by 4 points. So starting today, you're going to see candidates and their surrogates all over the place, starting with Bill Clinton. He'll be in Lansing this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Our Ken Kolker will be there. I will be with Donald Trump. That will happen tonight over in Sterling Heights. Then, that's today's schedule. Tomorrow, it gets really busy. Ivanka Trump will be at an event in Hudsonville at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Pinnacle Center. President Obama will be in Ann Arbor at 11 o'clock at the University of Michigan. Governor Mike Pence will be in Traverse City at 1 p.m. Hillary Clinton will be at Grand Valley State Fieldhouse at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And Donald Trump will be in Grand Rapids at 11 p.m. Yes, 11 p.m. at DeVos Hall. And here's why. Take a look at the way the electoral map shapes up right now. You see all of the gray areas? These are toss-ups. If you were watching Meet the Press a few moments ago, they had some of these trending for one candidate or the other. And at the end of this show, we'll come and show you how each of these states is trending. But the point is, Real Clear Politics says they're close enough they could go either way. That's why it's called a toss-up. So you got 4 out west, and then as you come back to the east, there's Iowa. But this is really the big prize right here. Florida down here, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Logic says you have to win a couple of those in order to win the White House, and that goes for either side. So we're going to be keeping a close eye here. You'll see the candidates in all of those states. Obviously, Florida is close, about 2 points. And then Georgia, North Carolina, those are states where Republicans need to win as well. Virginia just recently went from being a toss-up and now has gone back to trending for Hillary Clinton. Yesterday, it was Mike Pence. He was back in Michigan for his 3rd stop in 36 hours. He talked to a group of supporters in Holland about the importance of making sure everyone turns out to vote. It's clear for both camps that getting their votes out will be key. Later, he talked with me about what he sees on the ground as he and Donald Trump try to do something in Michigan that hasn't been done since 1988, Republicans winning a general election. Governor, 36 hours ago, I said, are you going to win Michigan? You said, I'll let you know. Well, it's 36 hours later. What can you let me know?
Well, we're just seeing tremendous momentum. I mean, here in Holland and yesterday in Lansing, and the response Donald Trump has gotten all across this state is also reflected in states across the country. I mean, Donald Trump and I are just absolutely committed to crisscrossing this country and carrying his message to make America great again to every corner of the land, because I think the American people are rallying around his message, and you see that in the momentum and the enthusiasm here in Michigan.
When you look at the national map, there are more toss-up states by far than just a few days ago when you and I talked. Does that give you hope that you really do turn some of those blue states that have gone toss-up? And how do you feel when you look at the numbers, understanding that sometimes those numbers look closer than they are?
Well, the only poll that really matters at the end of the day is the one we're going to finish on November the 8th, and I recognize that. But when you look at our schedules, where Donald Trump is today and this weekend, and today I'm in Michigan, I'm headed for Wisconsin, and I'll be in Virginia. We see a widening map of opportunities. We see Americans responding to Donald Trump's message for a stronger, more prosperous America at home and abroad. And so as the days wear on to this election, we're going to continue to, I think, see those opportunities widen when it appears that the opposition is much more working to defend their traditional map. And I think that all speaks about the enthusiasm that people feel for change. I honestly believe This election just comes down to a choice between change and the status quo. And if people are satisfied with policies of the last 7.5 years that have weakened America's place in the world, stifled America's economy, they can stay with Hillary Clinton and the policies of the Obama administration. But if they want real change, if they want a fresh start for America, if they want to see America standing tall again and prospering here in the Midwest again, that choice is Donald Trump.
Earlier in the week, it was the Trump kids barnstorming the state, including a stop at GVSU in Allendale. That's where Donald Trump Jr. encountered some protesters. They were pretty vocal during his short talk there. Earlier, we talked with Trump Jr. at the race that his father is involved in. When your father came down that escalator and made the announcement at Trump Tower that he was going to run for president of the United States, there were people all over this country that said, never happened. Yeah. Never going to happen. Won't make it through primaries. Won't make it through 30 days. Here we are, a handful of days before the election. Sure. Is there anything about this that surprises you?
Listen, it's amazing. It's been an honor and humbling experience to be able to just go around the country and see that hope in people's eyes that you can actually effectuate real change. At the same time, I've learned not to bet against my father. Right? When he says he's going to do something, when he puts his mind to something, he's got a pretty good track record of success. I would much rather bank on his track record of success than our opponent. Again, the lies, the deceit, the corruption that's gone on. It's time to break that up. That's not the America I know. That's not the America any of your viewers should know, where we just say, hey, it's okay to have pay to play. It's okay to be given debate answers and questions beforehand. We're running up against arguably the most corrupt candidate in the history of the U.S. presidency. Let's not reward that kind of behavior. Let's get rid of that kind of behavior.
When you look at the map, again, why you are in Michigan, when you look at the map, it is still a heavy lift to get to 270. Is there enough time, or are there enough stops in a day that you can pull this off?
Well, listen, I think so. And I think, there's so many people that aren't being counted in these polls. I see it every day, whether it's, the dozens of people daily, that come up to me and say, we're lifelong Democrats, but we're voting for you because we're sick of it. These are union workers that, they know their bosses have been bought and paid for generations, but they're saying, hey, we're switching over because we believe you could bring back jobs. Or to the dozens of people daily that come up to me and say, I'm 25 to 83, and I've never voted in my life. I was shocked initially. I thought it was an anomaly at first, but you hear it every day for weeks on end. You sort of say, man, there's an undercurrent of people who've been let down by Washington. Again, this is not Republican versus Democrat. These are just Americans who've been let down by politicians who failed them time and time again, politicians who've made promises and never delivered, politicians who tell you everything you want to hear and then go do whatever their special interests tell them to do. We're the opposite of that. My father's not owned by any of these people. He's here doing this for the American people.
By Friday, it was more than clear the Clinton camp was taking the Trump emphasis on Michigan very seriously. There was a big rally at Detroit's Eastern Market where Hillary Clinton made it clear that Michigan was key, and Michigan voters needed to make sure that they did not pass on this election.
But Michigan votes on Tuesday. And I imagine there are some of you who know people who say they're going to vote for Donald Trump, right? I know. I understand that. I would hope you'd try to stage an intervention before it's too late. But maybe you could ask them with you to imagine January 20th, 2017. And imagine that my opponent is taking the oath of office in front of the Capitol. Imagine having a president who demeans women and mocks the disabled, who insults African Americans and Latinos and Muslims. I know this has been a tough campaign. I've got people coming up to me saying they've got migraines they never had before. They have stomach aches that they don't know what they're going to do with. I get it. It has been, in many ways, a really tough campaign. But I'll tell you what, Michigan, you can make the difference.
Michigan senior Senator Debbie Stabenow has watched a lot of elections in this state. On Friday at that rally, I spoke to her about what appeared to be a tight race as we enter the final hours of the contest. Senator, we're in the final hours as you and I speak right now, and it may change by the time this airs. Michigan looks like a toss-up state again, according to Real Clear Politics, and I understand polls come and go. Right. But give me your take on a race that has certainly changed in complexion in the last 7 days.
Well, first of all, we're a very independent lot in Michigan. Everybody makes up their own mind. I ultimately believe that based on who Hillary Clinton is, her record for keeping us safe and focused on middle-class families and children is the stronger record, and that when folks look at the fact that Donald Trump talks about jobs, but he makes all of his products overseas. 11 different countries. If he wanted to create jobs, he'd close his own foreign factories. And what he has done in terms of his life, what he says, divisiveness, and so on, I think it's a pretty clear picture in the world that we live in, who's better prepared to lead the United States.
You and I have been circling in the same political orbit for about the same amount of time, and we've seen a lot of races. Does it surprise you that this race is in this condition at this point?
You know, it is. Every time we look at this, we think, well, something can't happen, and it does. I do have to say that I think everyone would agree that Donald Trump has said so many things, any one of which would have disqualified somebody at another time. His attacks on women, disabled people, the Muslim faith, veterans, on and on. All of the incredible negativity back and forth. I'm looking forward for this to be done, and I want us to be able to heal the country and bring people together, because we've got a lot of work to do.
When we come back, it's clear Michigan's important and apparently in play. How secure is your vote? As both campaigns tell us, every vote matters, so how can we be sure that every vote counts? Secretary of State Ruth Johnson will explain next. To the point. Welcome back to the Point. We sat down with Secretary of State Ruth Johnson just days ahead of this remarkable election to find out how the state tries to ensure your ballot, from privacy to accuracy to making sure it counts. This is an important conversation because every election is important. Political reporters tend to say that this is the most important election ever, whichever year it is. But nonetheless, the real important thing is voting, making sure that you know what you're voting for or about, knowing the process, and making sure that everybody who's eligible to vote can vote. I know that's what you work on a good deal of your time. Tell me about this election cycle, starting with the absentees. You have seen an uptick in people who are interested in voting, or at least from absentees, it looks like.
We have, and it's encouraging. More people are certainly getting involved at this point. We have a 29% increase from the last presidential, as of yesterday.
So you made the point that you don't know if that's going to translate into 29% more people voting overall, but you have to be prepared. So tell me, what do you, from the Secretary of State's standpoint, do to get prepared? Because as you point out, the administration of this election is really done on the very local level.
It is. Michigan's somewhat unusual that way, that our local clerks, 1,603 of them, actually conduct the elections. And they were named some of the best clerks for conducting elections in the nation. So I'm very proud of the job that they are doing. And we are different that way. We also have done many things to get ready for this election. One is to clean up our qualified voter file. We've taken off 889,000 names to make sure that our qualified voter file is accurate. About half of those were people that had died, and many of them had moved out of state and were registered and voting in another state. So that was number one. And then our machines have paper ballots, so the good news is they can always be rechecked. And the system has so many checks and balances in it already, which is good because we want to make sure that every eligible voter has an opportunity to vote. And we were also named #1 in the nation for getting people registered to vote at our Secretary of State offices. We encourage people to vote, but an educated voter is always a better voter. So we have a site, michigan.gov/vote. You can see your ballot. We have 6,800 different ballot styles. So you need to see what's on there. There's many elections, and on the back, sometimes people don't turn it over. There's judges. So you need time to look up who really represents you the best, who shares your thoughts and your ideology the best. this is a way to do it. You can also mark your ballot, take it with you. Obviously, you can't show it to people in, when you're voting in the voting area, but you take it with you, and you can vote so quickly and so easily. You help keep our lines moving, and most importantly, you're an educated voter then.
And that is easily accessed. I did my ballot a few days ago and looked at all the races on there, and people will inevitably be surprised. Everybody's focused on the presidential race, of course, but they're all members of the U.S. House, all members of the State House, so everybody will have the opportunity to vote for a member of U.S. Congress and for the State House as well, no matter where you are in the state of Michigan, because those are all up. And there are many local issues, county issues, and some ballot proposals. Depends on where you live. So you can see your ballot. That's the first important thing to do. But even before that is being eligible to vote. There's nothing you can do about that now if you're not registered. We're well past that deadline. But what do people need to remember when they head to their polls if they don't have their voter registration card that tells them their precinct? How can they find that out?
Sure. On michigan.gov/vote, not only will you see your ballot, but you'll know your clerk's name, phone number, how to get a hold of them, and where you vote. Some people get mixed up in their precincts because some of them were changed at some point. So you can check all of that so easily. And then if you do go to the wrong poll, they will let you know. But you don't want to wait in line at the wrong poll and then have to head to another one. So everything is on michigan.gov/vote that you would need to be an educated voter, except you do need to do the research. We don't offer any input on ballot proposals. And as you said, there's a lot of county commissioners running, township supervisors, clerks, trustees, so many ballot initiatives all over the state as well as the higher offices. So there's a lot of research to be done this year.
And of course, judges from Supreme Court right down to the circuit level. So, I mean, there are a lot of races on that ballot you may not be expecting. What do I do when I go in to vote? I know the first thing I always do, and of course I'm a creature of habit, so I always immediately put down my ID because it speeds the process along. But what if somebody shows up and they don't have ID?
That's a good point. In Michigan, we have sort of a hybrid system. If you have ID, you must show it. Most precincts will have an electronic machine that you slide it through, and that makes sure we know who you are, so it doesn't show up sometime later that it was a junior or senior. Or sometimes we had people that when the precinct worker took the little barcode reader, they were off one, and so it would show that X amount of dead people had died. It was just a mistake on where they placed it. So the electronic poll books have taken care of that. For those that don't have ID, they are able to sign an affidavit of identity, and we do check those now here at the state after the election.
So as you prepare to do all of this, and all of these clerks are all over the state, and they're, you obviously got the website. What is the function of your office during that time period? Because I know that in the past, a long time ago, I was standing with a former Secretary of State. It was election night, and there was a challenge to keep the polls open, and they had to rush away and go get a rendering or some kind of a judgment from a court about those kind of things. So are you just kind of on point all day long?
Yeah, all of us are on point. The local clerks, first of all, interact with their county clerks, and there's 83 county clerks that will help them. Obviously, we have a staff of 36. We can't be all over the state, but we do bring in people from other departments to help us on Election Day, and so we're here as the resource at the state, and we'll continue to do that. But it works in sort of a hierarchy where the local clerks are trained and have manuals, and we have the YouTube 2 to 5 minute videos, so they're trying to take care of everything they can. If they can't, they call the county, and then if there's a problem, then we get the next call.
Talk to me about something that we've heard about this year, perhaps with more intensity than other years. People, obviously, the Republican nominee for president has talked about a rigged system. And when you say rigged system, some people immediately go to a problem with voting. I'm not going to get into what his meaning of that is, but tell me about the safety and security of voting in Michigan, because I know over the years, and particularly after the Helping Americans Vote Act, there's been a lot of attention paid to just that, making sure the qualified voter file, as you talk about,
yes,
but making sure that the people who are voting are supposed to be voting, and making sure that once they've cast those votes, that those votes are tabulated in the way that they intended for them to be voted in the first place.
Yes, when I came into office, having a comprehensive plan to make sure that there was integrity in our elections was number one for me, for my priorities. And obviously the other one, having all the DMV responsibilities, was customer service. But there's nothing more important in elections than making sure every person that's eligible to vote has been asked if they would like to. And we start right there by asking people when they come to our Secretary of State's office. And that's why we've taken #1 in the nation for doing that. We also check and make sure at that point that they are a U.S. citizen and that they are eligible, and they do have to sign something that says that they do live in the district, that they are eligible to vote, they are a U.S. citizen, and under penalty of law. So we've done that to help keep our voter files clean. We have cleaned 889,000 people off our voter registration list that weren't supposed to be on there, most of them because they had passed away. We got a subscription with Social Security Administration, and every 2 weeks we keep it updated. So that's helped, and that's an ongoing process. And then for the people that have moved, we joined something called the Kansas Project, and they bump up the names every February, and then we know the states that are participating. I wish all of them were, but over half are right now, and that helps us know how many people have moved and then where are they voting. Obviously you can't vote in 2 states. We've had some people try to do that, and they are prosecuted. That's just illegal, and no one gets 2 votes. We have sent letters to all the people that we found that were not citizens and let them know they can't vote, and flagged it at every clerk's office so that they don't. If they do, it's a felony and they can be deported. And often they registered because they were asked over and over, because the federal government said you must ask for DMVs, but there was, like, the left hand and right hand didn't know what was going on, because at the states, a lot of people didn't have a system to be able to check to see if they were citizens. Often they didn't speak English. They were asked over and over and over, and they signed. And so we don't want them to get in trouble either. Plus, every time you have somebody that's not qualified vote, somebody that is a qualified electorate, their ballot is nullified. So that was important to us. We have paper ballots, so everything can be counted. The counties have a canvass team, and they take 2 weeks, and if it's 1 vote off, that township or city has to come in, even if the election was a blowout, and they have to tell why they're 1 off in any precinct as far as who signed the registry and how many ballots were there. So we have those checks and ballots, and then everything comes to the state too. So we have all these systems that are set up. Our machines, our tabulators, are not hooked up to the internet. We don't have this grand big computer. People like to think that somebody could get in and hack. And again, because we do have local control or a decentralized system, I think there's many more checks and balances in our system than most. That's also very helpful, I think, to be able to make sure that things are done properly and every vote counts.
When we come back to the big map with all of the toss-ups now credited to the candidate who was ahead, no matter how small the margin, and some of them are really tight margins, and why each state that changes in the next 48 hours can be a game changer. That's next. To the point. All right, here it is, the Electoral College vote in about 60 seconds. Right now, if you go to the Real Clear Politics website, they aggregate all the polls, and you take all of the states trending, no matter how small that is, this is what it would look like. Hillary Clinton at 297, Donald Trump at 241. Of course, it takes 270 to win. Now, we're not suggesting for a moment that all of those states are going to know what they're trending like. Some of them are in the single-digit percentage differences. Some of them are fractions, so we know that some of these states could go the other way easily. For example, Florida, where Hillary Clinton leads by less than 2. Look what happens if it changes, if Donald Trump prevails. Then Donald Trump has 270, Hillary Clinton at 268. So that begins to tell you how important these other states are. For example, if you go and you look at Michigan, where we think it is a toss-up, if Michigan changes, it's not enough to give Trump the election, but it certainly makes it an easier path for him to pick up some other state somewhere else. So all of these states are vitally important, and Michigan obviously is taking on added significance with all of those visits that are happening today. I'm on my way to Sterling Heights for Donald Trump. Ken Kolker will be with former President Bill Clinton in Lansing. And then tomorrow, top of both tickets, President Obama. Michigan is a state where it's all happening. It's all politics for the next 2 days. I want you to stay with us for 24-hour News 8 at woodtv.com. And of course, throughout our election coverage on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. To the point.